Trying to figure out what's the best way to position my phone.
I know.
It looks like you're fine, and we're live, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Power Books Live. And this afternoon, we are so very, very, very excited. We have as our special guest today, Celeste Mohammed. She is a lawyer turned writer. Her debut novel and stories, Pleasant View, was released in the USA on May 4, 2021. In 2016, she graduated from Lesley University, Cambridge, Massachusetts, with an MFA in creative writing, concentrating in fiction. Her work has appeared in the New England Review, Litmag, Epiphany, among other places. She is the recipient of a 2018 Robert J. Dau Short Story Prize for Emerging Writers. She was also awarded the 2019 Virginia Woolf Award for short fiction and the 2017 John D. Gardner Memorial Prize for fiction. Celeste lives in Trinidad and Tobago with her family. Hi, Celeste.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on with us. And we also are so happy to welcome our two panelists who are also Lesley creative writing MFA grads, and we have poet Suzanne Edison and author Benjamin Rush. Welcome to the discussion, guys.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. This is really fun, and it's great to see everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Leah and Celeste, and welcome, Benjamin.
Yes, hi, Suzanne.
I'm so very excited that we're doing this. You have, Celeste, been one of the people that I wanted on the live stream from the very beginning. I have two co-producers. I should tell everyone they're canines. You can hear one of them wanting to get in on the discussion. But thankfully, they weren't able to get on the Kindle, so they haven't actually read the book. So hopefully we don't have to hear too much from them. It was a great read, Celeste. Really enjoyed it.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. In fact, I was up in the wee hours finishing it off, and I'm excited to kick off a little discussion. But before we do that, I have to, appease the readers. We have to have a little personal talk.
Sure.
So tell me, what makes a lawyer turn writer?
A lawyer who's never supposed to be a lawyer. The truth is, let me just decline this call. Yeah. The truth is, I've always wanted to be a writer from a little girl. I think somewhere upstairs I have the first book I ever wrote. It was like a mystery book. I was like 8 years old or something, and I wrote and illustrated this book. I always wanted to be a writer, but at the time that I grew up in Trinidad.
Whoops, you're sideways now.
Sorry about that. Yeah. At the time that I grew up in Trinidad, you either had to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. That's what your parents wanted, right? Anything else was not acceptable. And I couldn't be a doctor or an engineer. I'm terrible at math. So that left law. So I, and because, I like to read, law involves reading, so it seemed like a natural fit until it wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember being, in Trinidad, it's 5 years to complete the entire law course, right? So I remember being in like the second year of this 5-year course and just having like a complete breakdown in the law library, crying. And my friends are like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, I don't want to do this. But it's broken up into 3 years, getting your degree, your Bachelor of Laws, and then you get your degree, and then you do 2 years in like law school learning procedure and so. So I was in the second year of the 3-year piece. So how could I stop? My parents would kill me, right? They would, they're like, just finish and get the degree. So I finish and I get the degree and I get into law school, and then they're like, you're in the 4th year of a 5-year degree. just finish, So, so I kept finishing and finishing, and eventually, after 10 years of practicing, I had to have a come to Jesus with myself and my husband, and I was like, I was so scared to tell him. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just need like a little break to figure out what I want to do. And the funniest thing, his reaction was like, "Thank God, you're not." Yeah, he's like, "You're not a very nice person to live with because you're not happy."
Oh, happiness is so important, isn't it? Really, really important.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I took a year off, and in that year, it became very clear to me what I needed to do, and with the advice of some friends, I applied to Lesley, and the rest is history.
the rest is history. Yes, they are. And we passed each other on campus for a while, and
Yeah.
then we became Facebook friends.
I actually remember you in my my graduating seminar, which was
Yeah.
on art and
Oh,
stuff, and
yes,
yeah,
yes. That was a great seminar and you executed that beautifully in the book. It was if I remember correctly, it was something along the lines of how to write about intimate topics without,
yes.
just like going overboard,
Well, yes,
being
how
overly
sexual
graphic.
impressionism, how to create
Yes.
the illusion of explicitness. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. That was great, and you've done very well with that. Well, I think the readers are happy hearing that story, and I'd like to just dive in a
Sure.
bit into the book. I have to tell you right off the bat, there were some very funny moments, and I so enjoyed your imagery. I took a little piece that I wanted to laugh about.
Yeah.
It was on page 114.
Okay.
It's the chapter where Declan and Ruth go to church. And
Right.
it says, a brain-splitting squeal came from the speaker boxes at the front. Declan jerked upright and stuck his fingers deep into his ears. He turned around just in time to see Bishop Roy Stone T. Scantlebury with Jerry curls alive like Mercury descending from the stage.
Yes.
I mean, Jerry curls descending like Mercury. Oh my God.
Page
And that's
150.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. And those are just, well, oftentimes Kindle and
Right.
the
Well,
paper don't
in this one,
actually,
it's 150.
in 115 in the hard copy. Yeah. Oh my God. And there's more of those, but that was just so that whole scene, actually, you did so well showing us, I call it podium pounding. I grew up
Mm.
in the Baptist church in the United States, and there's a lot of this podium pounding, and boy, did you capture it so well. The dialogue all ending in the same phonetic sound. I was
Yes.
just like, I was there. I could actually see it. So that was really, really great. And of course, there's a lot more. I mean, you deal with a lot of really interesting subjects, and I know we're going to dive into those. And so I know we have some things planned. Our two panelists are here and I think we're going to read first, Celeste. Is that what we
Sure.
do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll read first, and that might be helpful.
That will be fun. All right. So we'll hear from Celeste. I'll keep quiet for a while.
Okay, so I will be reading from Santi Manite, which you all know now by now. I don't know if your readers know, but Santi Manite is a corruption of the French sans humanité, which means without mercy. French Creole, French Patois was at one time the most widely spoken language in Trinidad, and so many words and phrases remain. And Santi Manite is the traditional refrain to what is known as an extempo battle, which is like a rap battle, but using calypso. Same concept.
Yeah.
Two people face off and they kind of throw words at each other, and the chorus is always Santi Manite, right?
Yes.
I'll say more about that chorus later, but for now I'm just gonna read. from page 200 in the hard copy. Miss Ivy stood, easing the sweaty, heavy fur from her shoulders as she clutched the chair in front of her. She wanted to see and hear Yolande better, and she needed to do something with her body, something different. She was a tired old rag who'd spent years sitting in dirty water. How many card readings had she pretended to do? For old woman, young woman, and always about a vicious man or a lost child. Too many times she'd lied to give Pleasant View women false hope, to feel like she was helping them. But nothing had ever changed in her life or theirs. Miss Ivy felt tattered, over-soaked, and rank with secret female blood. She was dying to wring herself clean. Yolande pointed a red-nailed, accusing finger at Winston, and she sang. Now, I'm no singer, but I will give it a try. Dog does run down puss when dog feel to play, then turn around and bawl the puss is to blame. How much young girl that old man hold on, and all you never talk 'cause he money strong. One baby dead, but it have plenty more. Funeral they bound to show up by Miss Joan door. Yes, 2 bullet land, but 3 bullet miss. Gail shoulda castrate the son of a Santi Manite. The crowd roared. They were all on their feet now, over Miss Ivy, their silhouettes towering and clustering around her like a black forest. Winston strumming, the bucket brigade beating, the bottle and spoon man knocking, lickiting, 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 everybody on a faster rhythm now, faster than any extempo, and growing more frenetic with every second. They had started this night pretending to honor Mr. H's life and mourn his death. But Miss Ivy felt the ground trembling now under the weight of a spiteful honesty descending on the rum shop like a chariot. Pleasant View was damn glad Mr. H dead. He had dishonored so many of them in life. He'd bought and discarded women, made men feel helpless and small. He was a son of a bitch, and Yolande had given everybody license to say so. I'll skip ahead a little bit to page 202, the ending. The drumming stopped. The wake fell silent. Everybody in the rum shop yard heard when Miss Ivy cried out, "Satan, receive your son. Use my onlyest hope now." Then the vomit flowed. She collapsed over the chair as over the rim of a boat, and while tumbling toward those imagined waters, her mind clung tight to a thread of blue. The blue $100 notes inside the envelope Gail had sent her to retrieve from the bedroom to pay the hospital. The blue notes Joan had given her for 20-something years of salary and Christmas bonus and fortune telling and secret keeping. Blue, as the shirt Mr. H had on when she'd walked into his study and told him about the blisters and the burning and how she must have gotten it from him. And the blue blocks of laundry soap she'd bathed with every time the blisters returned. The blue pieces of cloth she'd always pinned to other people's children to protect them from Maljo and the jealous spirits of unborn babies, all the while thinking of her own. The blue blanket on the floor of the stable and the bluish eye of the horsefly squatting on it, studying her. And when she turned her head away to stare over the stable boy's shoulder and between the flapping galvanized sheets, the crisp Grenada sky. The chipped blue paint on a pirogue in Goyave Bay, its net paid out, and the darker blue of the troubled waters as men frightened fish and herded them forward, while other men, with blue-black glistening skin, stood on the shore, pulling seine, pulling together to bring in the net, pulling to a rhythm, pulling to the excited voices of children on the beach. Ivy was there again, among those picky-head children, some with plaits still tight, some with plaits loosed and hair exploding, all black and bareback, and all in underwear, hers a blue panty. They hadn't yet learned that boys and girls were different, and she hadn't yet learned how to feel ashamed. That's it. Thank you.
So powerful. That's Suzanne. I know that was a passage that you particularly wanted to talk about. So let us hear from your beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you. I love this passage, Celeste. And before I talk about poetic structures, I really want to hear from you how you think about how this recurring image of blue came to you and what you think happens with it in this section.
Well, it was deliberate. From the beginning of the story, I started threading in the color blue from the very beginning, culminating with this this last section. And I did that for many reasons. One, because at first it was just a simple case of trying to imitate a technique I had seen another writer do, but he didn't use an image as much as like a prop, a blanket. I chose to use this color, blue, because when you think about the Caribbean, when you think about the Caribbean, you guys, blue is a color that features prominently in your minds, I'm sure. Blue sky, blue waters, that kind of thing. I think I wanted to invert that, and I wanted to show you that blue means more in the Caribbean than just what you think it means. The truth is, in our culture, in Trinidad culture, blue is very much, blue is a color associated with deep spiritual and occultish meanings. So from the very beginning, you know, we have this kind of ominous sense that something is going to happen and she's not feeling well. So from the very beginning, you have that blue. And by the time we get here, I'm making it very plain in this passage. I talk about maljo. Maljo is a corruption of the French malheur, bad eye. And the cure for bad eye in Trinidad is to pin a little piece of blue cloth containing a talisman on children's clothes, right? If you're a child, that's what your parent will do. If you're grown up and you feel like you're experiencing bad eye, maljo, you would bathe with blue soap, laundry soap. It's like a big block. Blue soap and water. There's a song about that. Also, like in our carnival, a major, well, not a major, but a big component is the blue devils. They cover themselves from head to toe in a compound made from that same blue laundry soap. And they parade the streets and they block your path and you have to pay them. They dress like devils, they breathe. It's all related to this concept of blue being associated with spirituality, especially dark spirituality. And she's a seer woman after all. So she knows these things, Miss Ivy. So I guess long and short of my answer, Susan, is that I feel like there's certain subliminal, we have a body of knowledge, all of us. I mean, all of us, regardless of wherever we're from. And things like colors, to me, are a way to tap into that and like evoke what you think blue means, but then twist it to show you we're not always on the same page. There's something deeper going on. Because the whole point of this book is to say to people who only ever read into the Caribbean myths, sun, sea, sand, there's more here.
Thank you. That's very, very braided, and I also think of blue. There's so much alliteration in this passage. So the repetition of the B sounds.
Yes.
Blue and blisters and blue blocks and more blisters and blue black and blue panty and bareback. So that it creates this sense of sort of pounding at you, hitting you, and a beat and a rhythm, and also this sense of the repetition is this sense of spellbinding almost. It pulls you into its spell, which I think is just so masterful in this section. And could you talk a little bit more about just rhythm and spell writing, if that is something that you kind of fills you? And one more thing about blue, I also think of that as blue as sadness. That there is, there's so many songs with the color blue in it, and then. Yeah. So and Maggie Nelson has written this book called Bluettes, which is all about the color blue. If you haven't,
no, I don't know that one.
You should check it out. But talk to me about rhythm and spell.
Before I forget, I'm glad you said that, but about blue, because there are other things right in the same passage, other meanings of blue apart from the spiritual. Because like in Trinidad, our money is not like yours, one color, different colors. Kind of British style. And so if somebody were to say to you, how much you want for that? And you say, well, give me a blue now. Give me a blues. You're referring to $100 bill, right?
Oh, okay.
So there's the blue in that context of money. And also another word for porn is a blues. So that's the whole sexual, and not good sexual, but like, exploitative. So all of those meanings were intended to be evoked by in the mind of a local audience, and also conveyed somewhat to a non-familiar audience. Now, rhythm, very important, obviously in the story and throughout the book, because that's one of the reasons why I choose to write partly in Trinidad Creole for the rhythm, because I just feel like some things can't be sufficiently conveyed in standard English. And one of those things is like the rhythm of how we speak. You can't get that. You can't get the same meaning, the same onomatopoeia or whatever it is about how we speak. You can't get it in standard English. And so I hear it in my head, like when I write, I am hearing like if a band is going down the street carnival, but I am hearing and so when I read over my work, whether I read it aloud or in my head, I'm hearing, and I can tell when there's, I can tell when the rhythm is off. So rhythm is part of I am keeping a rhythm while I'm writing. And it's not something I have to consciously inject into the prose. It's there. And I guess that's just what it means to be Trini.
I think you do that a lot, not just in this section. There's a short section on, I think it's page 107, where you have sort of short and long sentences, and they themselves create that rhythm as well. Yeah. So it's another Miss Ivy little section. Do you want to read it, or
107?
Yeah, just in the middle of the page, she says, so what do I do? Mrs. H grabbed Miss Ivy's wrists.
107. Here we go. But how can he do that, Ivy? That part?
So what do I do, Miss H?
So what do I do? Yes. So again, there is a difference in the rhythm between how Mrs. H speaks and how Miss Ivy would speak, right? So Mrs. H is all standard English, like she's like, so what do I do? Mrs. H grabbed Miss Ivy's wrist. Miss Ivy looked down at the lady's see-through, blue-veined fingers, squeezed together, resembling a nest of wood-slave lizards. In the 20 years she'd worked there, Miss Ivy could count on one hand the number of times Mrs. H had ever touched her, skin to skin. Santa Marta ladies only dirtied their hands like that when they were desperate. Miss Ivy dropped the meek and mild act, looked her ex-boss straight in the eye, her tone losing all its flattery. Fake sick, fake injury, beg him, bully him, make the children or the grandchildren bully him. Fuck him if necessary. Do whatever you have to do, but keep your husband from that meeting.
So that has like this punching rhythm too,
Yeah.
and this sort of quality of starting
Very
out
much so.
slow and then punch, 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 punch. So it's, I just feel like you do that throughout the book in many different ways. The qualities of rhythm and music being so crucial to the way you write, and as a
Very
poet,
musical.
a lot of those images too. I don't know what a slave lizard is, but I loved it.
I don't know if you guys have them. I don't know what you would call it. They're like almost like white or pinky white, and they're really fat and juicy looking, and you can see through their skin. And you can see through their skin, and you can see like the green and blue veins. They're gross. Like when I see one, it's like, ew, you know? So
it sounds gross. But your language is so lyrical, so musical. And particularly when you are, and it's with the Santa Manatee, it's,
right.
I mean, it's, you wrote songs. You wrote 3 different songs. I'm assuming that they're all you're doing. That
Well,
there isn't one that's actually
yes, 2 of them I had help. 2 of them I had help. I knew what I wanted in terms of I knew what I wanted it to accomplish, but I had help to write 2, and then the last one, that one that I just read, I wrote that on my own. But I had to gain confidence by working with somebody for like the first one. And he was very helpful. He said, "What do you want me to say?" And I said, "Okay, well, I want you to say this, but say it in extempo." And he did the first one, and I was like, "Okay, let's do the second one together." We did. And then he was like, "Now you do the last one by yourself." And I did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Suzanne, did you exhaust your questions?
Oh, I'm sure I'll come back to some.
I'm sure you will. Let's hear from Mr. Rush. You've been so quiet, letting us all chatter away.
I've just been soaking it all up, ladies. I would love to talk about music in this section in a couple different ways. I mean, I'm a musician and I love music and I love what it represents. I love how it functions in the private, but also in sort of our public lives. And as I was rereading the story, I was kind of blown away by all the different balls you've thrown up in the air and how gracefully you've juggled them towards the end. I think we're so caught up in the emotional sort of journey that Miss Ivy goes on in the story that it's easy to take for granted that there's really a lot happening in the story. And I as I was rereading, I was realizing that the context of this extempo war and music creates this like moment for all these things to happen that have sort of been waiting to happen. Mm-hmm. You know, Mr. H is this character that's been built up over the course of the book, and he's like this specter. I almost think of him as like he haunts the book in a certain way. He's there as a character. That's good. But he feels to me like he is there also as this like ghost that's over people's shoulder and seems to be more than himself. He seems to represent something that haunts a lot of people, like the characters in the book. And so we have to reckon with Mr. H's death, and we also have to have Miss Ivy get to this amazing place of release. And so I guess one question I have is, how did you decide to have this public outdoor wake and then have it be an extempo situation, be the context for all those things to happen? Because it feels like if you take away the extempo war, then some of those things maybe don't happen, at least they don't happen right now. Maybe they happen later. Maybe Miss Ivy has that moment later on. We also get like the voice of the community speaking almost for the first time when, I forget what her name is. Is it Yolande?
Mm-hmm.
Gets up and does her verse.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that everybody felt empowered to sort of
Mm-hmm.
stop playing the game of acting like they really liked Mr. H and people put their guard down. So I guess I'd love to hear how you balance those elements and why you chose music and the extempo war as the crux of all that sort of narrative happening.
Right. Well, I don't disagree with anything you've said. Everything you said is exactly on point and very perceptive, Ben. Yes, for the first time, I wanted to have everybody who remains after all the carnage of the previous story. I wanted to have the whole village in this one place. Because the truth is the village is a character in this entire book. That's why I called it Pleasant View. The story is about the place as much as it is about the individuals, right? And so I wanted to put everybody in the same place. And I wanted this story to be like the culmination, as you said, of what was happening before, and bring it all to a head, to a crescendo, to use a musical term. And then you have the sudden drop off into the very last story, which is many years ahead, a couple of years ahead. So it was part structure, and also the book is about conflict. It's about the conflicts that we here in Trinidad face every day. And chief among them, you have the battle of the sexes, and you have class conflicts. And that is what the extempo is meant to be about. Mm-hmm. It's finally, you have the class conflict, put in the ring, and you have a battle of the sexes. Because the whole, if you want to say, conceit of the whole thing, Miss Ivy wants to go to the high class people week. They don't want her there. So she's relegated to this low class people week. But she kind of consoles herself. Well, they have their own ways of mourning and coping. And so she's going to this week in the hope, everybody's going, the entire village is going in the hope of mourning Mr. H and keeping up appearances and doing what they need to do. And the men in the village start the extempo by doing what men, quite frankly, in Trinidad, want to do. Cover their hurt at how they had been treated by Mr. H. Cover their wounded masculinity by taking it out on the weaker sex. Because the very first extempo is really Winston making fun of Gail in a sexual, in a way. And then the next guy does it in a sexual way, saying she didn't want the old man, she wanted me. And it is not until Yolande, a woman, stands up and puts her foot down and says no, then suddenly everybody is given permission to do what they all really want to do, which is to push aside the pretense of Mr. H being somebody honorable, and to really and truly just say what they feel and to mourn as a community, not for him. They're no longer mourning for him or pretending to mourn for him, but to mourn for themselves.
Yeah.
So that was the whole. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Winston's extempo was such a betrayal of Gail.
Yeah.
Knowing what he knew, it was just flat out wrong.
But it is also perfectly normal in our setting for a man or even a woman, but to try to deal with the trauma by making fun of the only person who can really defend herself.
Right.
And Celeste, there's no way it's an accident that he's singing Frank Sinatra in the toilet at the beginning.
I did it my way.
He did it his way. I was like, that's a master stroke right there. He's singing Sinatra. I did it my way in the bathroom. Then he's the one who carries that masculine tradition forward and can't say the truth. I mean, I assume that was an intentional choice.
Yeah. The thing is you would know, you as a musician, that in all of the in all of our cultures, every culture that had a plantation economy, every culture in this Western hemisphere that benefited from enslaved African peoples coming in large numbers, we also benefited musically from that call and response tradition, which is what this is. Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to jump into it and say too much or preempt any questions about it, but I mean, I could say more on that, but I'll just leave it there for now.
Wow. You deal with so many grave topics, immigration, you know, America the beautiful, you know, off I go and leave my whole family and then get another family.
Quite common. Quite
Yeah.
common.
Yeah. Immigration and and as you said, the battle of the sexes. I mean, the women, oh my gosh, the women, you know.
One of these things like that, even in that section that you just read about Miss Ivy, I keep coming back to it. Every time I read it, I see something new in it. So there's that section, the little bit, the blue, black, glistening skin stood up. Oh no, the darker blue of the troubled waters as men frightened fish and herded them forward while other men with blue, black, glistening skins stood on the shore, pulling seine, pulling together to bring in the net, pulling in the rhythm. So it's like also that sort of metaphor of how they would herd women into their nets. You know,
Yep.
so many layers in the, you know, in the way that you're writing this, and the rhythm, the pulling the sand, pulling them back.
And again, it is that whole thing of trying to tap into what people can imagine about the Caribbean. Yeah, I'm sure you can imagine seeing fishermen on a beach. It's quite cliche, but trying to give you, well, you see it that way. You see, but you know, there's some of us who I have looked at that scene because I have been in Guayave Bay looking at fishermen pulling, and I have felt not what she felt, but I felt moved by it.
Yeah.
So that's the question I have. I mean, it's related a little bit to that, but it's kind of back to sentimentality a little bit, which is the question of like responsibility to reader and sort of the choices that you make. I think about like the extempo war, and I'm just wondering, how do you think about how much to sort of explain about the context of this? You know, it's a layered thing, and obviously to, you know, a reader in Trinidad, this might ring a different way. It's probably going to ring a different way than it's going to ring to someone up here in Vermont where I live. And I mean, someone can glean a lot just from reading the story, but how do you make those choices about how to balance an introduction to what could feel like a new context to a reader, with also doing the important, probably more important work of just telling the story and making sure the characters come across and keeping the emotional thrust at the center of all of it?
In this case, and for this particular story, I really didn't feel like I needed to explain too much. There's that one footnote in the beginning that explains what Santimanite means, but I really didn't feel like I needed to explain too much because, like I said, I feel like everywhere in the Western Hemisphere, we all have benefited from a call and response kind of inheritance. And I feel like even if you're not if you're not Black or part Black or whatever, I feel like there's this shared body of knowledge, and you know what rap is, and you know what gospel music is. You've seen it, you know, you've seen call and response in different ways. And so for this story, I just felt like I just needed to put you in there and let you witness what was happening and that you would understand. But for beyond this, for the book as a whole, I did struggle with, especially like the Creole words, I did struggle with which ones to use, which ones to leave out. Should I put them in italics? Should I not put them in italics? It was a struggle. In the end, I kind of deferred to what my local ever local editor who she edits for like things like that. And she and I had a talk, and she said, Celeste, I think that you should go brave. Don't put everything in italics.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it. And I did, and I you know, in going over and over, I felt like if I do my job properly, people will understand from the context, from, you know, other things. So, you know, in terms of the words, that's what I did. And I guess there's an illusion of strangeness, but really and truly, everything that happens in this book happens where you live too.
You know,
Definitely.
I said this to Celeste, and maybe this sort of gets to what you're talking about, Jen, is as a poet, often, you know, we're encouraged, and I like to read my own work out loud to myself because I can hear the rhythms, I can hear the sounds that work or don't work. And so I forced myself actually to read out loud in this book because that allowed me to then try to sound out the words that, as a white Western woman, I don't really know, but it helped me in hearing the patois and the other dialects. And so I would encourage readers to read out loud if they're confused.
Yeah.
I think what you said, Celeste, about the universality of the events happening throughout the book. These things happen in other places. Absolutely. I mean, globally, there is so much going on with women in the world. And even in 2021, how our rights are being infringed upon daily. You know, how some of us are forced to live. All of these things are true, whether you're in the Caribbean, whether you're in Trinidad, Tobago, or whether you're in Las Vegas or wherever you are. Women being trafficked, and you know, the same thing with men. Even, you know, we have characters who are thought to be one way, thought to be sissified if they're not extremely macho. You know, and we kind of sort of see that turn around towards the end. But
yes.
you know, all of those things are very universal. Or the grass is greener on the other side. Everybody wants to go somewhere else. Everybody thinks that it's going to be better somewhere else. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. We have a saying, come see me, come live with me, two different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I would share this. I didn't expect this to happen. It happened yesterday. I think Benjamin knows about it. Where yesterday I woke up, whatever, I get a message or text on my phone from a friend of mine, and she's like, somebody wants me to show you this. And it was like a photograph of a typed up letter. And it was from somebody, as I'm calling the person, unnamed reader, who wrote this letter to me to tell me how much the book resonated with her and how much she felt like it was her autobiography. And it was maybe 2-3 paragraphs, whatever. And I well, of course, I got goosebumps. And so okay, fine, I read it. I kind of got over it, whatever. And then yesterday evening, she got my email address, my writer email address, and she sent me a longer letter telling me that she had been through this and she had things that are in the book, and that it felt like her complete life story and all of that. And on one hand, it was satisfying, because one of the criticisms this book has had from the very beginning was that, oh, these women lack agency. And I you know how many times I had to push back against that, because it's nice to read books about women who have agency. It's lovely to see her triumph at the end, you know, to see that whole feminist thing happen and have her prevail. But the truth is, not all women have agency. And many women I have encountered in my life that's precisely it. They feel as if their stories absolutely don't matter and will never be told, right? So I had to push back against that whole thing of give these women more agency. Some women, you know how much agency it takes to just even get up in the morning and exist.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes agency doesn't look like what we think it looks like.
Exactly.
It's limited by circumstances. Yeah.
Like Gail. I mean, she had to get up every morning and take care of her kids, right? And also, can you talk a little bit about how you brought the book in the epilogue into more contemporary time and why you chose Jason as the figure for that?
Right. So most of the book is set in the 1995, 1990s, around there. That's why you don't have cell phones and that kind of thing so much. And then we jump 5 years ahead to the epilogue. And Jason seemed to me to be the most likely candidate, being a child. You know, I believe the children are the future. So he was a child when the events happened, and I'm sure he and his brother would have stuck in people's minds because, you know, it's so cute. You know, when they're eating the chicken and the ketchup, you know, it's all stuck in your mind, you know. And so 5 years later, we get to see what is the effect on these children of the adults' decisions.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also, so it's what's happening to him then at that time, but also I called it the epilogue because it's also looking forward to what is to come. What is to come for him? What is to come for us, really, in Trinidad? Because I don't think I'm not sure if you all know this, but during the whole ISIS thing, Trinidad has the highest per capita in the Western Hemisphere, highest per capita number of recruits to ISIS.
Really?
And we're 4 hours from the US by plane, right? So, and I asked myself and there have been news reports, or Al Jazeera News, BBC, different news houses have tried to dissect that whole topic. And I asked myself, but why? Why Trinidad? Why here? There are Muslims in other territories in the Caribbean, next door in Guyana and Suriname. Why us? What is it about hair that makes boys want to do this? You know, and that was the question on my mind, and I felt Jason was the right person to raise it.
Are we going to see more of Jason and Omar?
Why does everybody ask me about Omar?
Well,
People seem to really like Omar and Miss Ivy a lot. Omar himself, I mean, oh gosh, it's sad how he turned out.
It's the turtle, though. I mean, that's what endeared me to Omar originally was that memory and him reckoning with that past. Mm-hmm. Just felt so true. And the way he stands up for that turtle, you know, that brave act, you know, he's not immune to the corruption. Obviously, we see later it gets him like it gets so many others. But that's what made him stand out in my mind. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. People ask me if this is the last we'll see of these characters, and I don't know. I want to say yes, but I'm not sure. I don't want to commit.
So you're not going to tell us what the next book is going to be about?
No, I can tell you I am working on some children's books right now, and I have started working on another adult book, but it doesn't involve these characters, and that will be in the oven for a while. So I don't know.
Celeste, can I ask you about the concept of like authenticity? I think it's a really interesting topic, and I was thinking about that letter you got, which is overwhelming. That's just unbelievable. But you know, certainly the result of your choices as a writer, you know, made some of that possible. How do you think about the concept of authenticity when you're making choices as a writer about your characters and about the story you're telling, and being true?
Authentic in what sense?
I guess
to my culture, I mean,
no, not so much cultural, like more like emotional authenticity, like realness, you know, those hard choices. Like I think about what you said about agency, some people having the desire to wrap things up a little more neatly and not so many hard edges. You know, how do you have the courage moment to make the honest choices, the authentic choices? That, because I think there's universality, which we've touched on, but I think people are also attracted to what feels real. They want to be, it feels important to be close to the fire. And when I read this book, I feel like I'm close to something urgent and something necessary. Even if it's hard and it hurts, it feels important to be near it. But as a writer, I know that that's a result of a million decisions you made, not some little accidental poof that happens overnight. That's painstaking craft and work you take on. How do you deal with that when you write?
I won't tell you that it was easy. As I said, from the earliest incarnation of these stories and this, which was my thesis, I had to deal with a lot of pushback. I had to give a lot of pushback to suggestions that it should go this way, that way, whatever. But in the end, I guess my North Star was always, I don't want to do what other people have done and are doing. I don't want, and I had completely stopped reading all Caribbean literature, except mentor texts, which would be like V.S. Naipaul's older works and so. Because I did not want to know what other people are doing. I didn't want to know what compromises other people were making. I didn't want to see how they handle this or that or that. I wanted to, find my voice and just come and do what felt true to me. And what I had seen. I mean, fiction, we all know fiction is fiction. But on the best days, it's nonfiction. You know, everything. Somebody reminded me yesterday that Margaret Atwood had said, everything I've written, it has been true at one time or the other for somebody somewhere. And so that was it. I had to block out. Honestly, Ben, I had to block everything out, everybody out, and just take those risks. And it helped that the stories, 6 of the 9 stories, came out one by one. I was very, very, I didn't have high hopes, but when that first one got published, where it got published, and won that award, I was like, well, hot damn. Well, look at this. Well, look how I am going to go all in. Because that was my thing. I was like, if these people read this story and actually think that they could work, because that is a hard story to read. 6 months. It's a difficult story to read. It's written in the second person and it's written in Creole, and there are a lot of things working against it. And I had been told that at Lesley. In my exit, we had these exit seminars with like publishing professionals, and I had read a piece of it. And the man told me, no, that's, yes. Then he told me all the things that was wrong with it and why it would never get published. And looky here. That is the one that won the Penn Award. So I was like, well, okay, if that's how it's going to be, then I'm just going to do whatever feels right for me and whatever keeps my interest. Because that's the thing. I feel like readers know when a writer is interested and is having fun, and when the writer is just phoning it in. Like I sometimes read and I'm like, oh my God, your editor told you to change that. Your editor told you to put, because I can tell when the writer is there and when the writer is not. At least I feel like I can. So I don't know if that helps, Ben, but it's not going to be, it was never easy. It was never easy. And maybe that's why this book took so long to come to light. Nobody wanted to take a chance on so many hard edges, as you put it.
Well, I think powerful art does that. It masks the craft behind it, and I kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Well,
I wonder, Celeste.
It mirrors Celeste. It mirrors your struggle, mirrors the struggle of some of the women that you're giving voice to as well. I think that your willingness to stay in your own authenticity allowed you also to move into those characters' authenticity as well. So I appreciate that story.
Thank you. Thank you. Leah, you were about to say something?
I'm wondering how you feel about all the literary expectations.
On me?
The foreword, yes, the foreword was written by one of our mutual mentors, Rachel Manley, who's a fabulous writer. And, well, she said some fabulous things. You're the next Naipaul.
You know,
the next Chekhov.
I used to, when I was little or growing up, I used to be quite a crier. Like I would cry a lot easily. My mother used to say, you piss me off, you cry for everything, right? But as I got older, I stopped being a crier. I over the last year though, since this book was accepted and the whole process going forward, I feel like I'm forever crying because things happen that really feel overwhelming. And reading Rachel's foreword was one of the things that made me cry because I was like, I was like, I don't know if she's saying this to be nice or if she really believes this. And if people read this, thank God nobody reads forwards. Because if people read this,
all of us do. You know, all of us Lesley people do.
No, I'm like, if people read this,
writers,
what are they gonna say? You know, and they might think that I paid her off or something. Like, I just don't know. I don't know what to do. Is it too late to take out the forward?
The check's in the mail.
You know, but she
well, we all know you didn't pay her, and we all know she meant it. We all who know her know that.
So it was hard to kind of wrap my mind around the things that she said.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the good thing about my life in Trinidad is that, and the good thing about having a little kid is that they are completely unimpressed. My daily life is so unimpressive that sometimes it feels like all of this is very far away from the center of my life. And when writing is a very solitary profession.
Yes.
There's nobody here to see. It's just me and the computer. So when I come in here and I close the door and I write, it's just me and my insecurities. I don't feel like an award-winning writer. I don't feel like the next Chekhov or the next Naipaul or anything. Like, I just feel like, and the only person really that I can sometimes say that to is like my editors. God bless them, Michael and Hester. I just finished a story for an anthology, and Hester was working on it with me, and I was like, oh my God, I don't think I could do this. I don't know, and I'm going on. And she said, Celeste, every time you write a story, you behave like this. Every time.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I don't feel any expectations on me.
Yeah. You're just gonna keep writing and keep bringing us these wonderful stories.
I'm gonna try.
They're my co-hosts again. They're saying thank you for being on Power Books Live, and thanks to Ben and Suzanne for being in the conversation with us. And hey, you can buy Pleasant View on powerbooks.com right now. Every day, it's always 20% off. Buy it from us. We're the little guys, and we're champion of women worldwide. So
yes,
buy that book today. You could have been buying it the whole time, but we were so busy talking that I forgot to say so. But yeah, it's definitely in stock, and you should order it if you haven't already. It's a great book. Thank you so much for coming to be on with us, and we look forward to having you back again. We will
Thanks,
keep
guys.
our eyes on you, and the two of you. We'll keep our eyes on you too.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks
All
for being here and taking the time.
Yes, thank you so much, and have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye.
All right.
Everybody.
Bye.